What's up, guys? It's your boy GRC. This is Crypto in the Morning. It's Sunday, Memorial Day. Good day. Very nice outside where I'm at on the East Coast. I already mowed my lawn this morning, so that's boom, done, which I'm happy about because I used to pay for my lawn to get mowed, but now I'm supposed to be more responsible, so I'm supposed to try to do it. So, guys, Maximus update. I want to say this first. There's a new derivative product coming off of Maxi. Dipcatcher told me about it last night. We were in the spaces talking he was telling everyone. We weren't talking specifically. It's incredible. It's a different kind of thing. I'm going to read the description of it once we get started here. We got Funding Jim in the back. He's ready. He's pumped up about the community right now. Like, this is where it really shows how different Hex is. It's like, it shows because when everyone else is falling off the radar, it's like, we're punching harder now. People are like, we have a better opportunity now. It's pretty incredible to see guys like Sam, myself, everyone. I didn't know I would get excited if we dropped to this level. I didn't really know what I'd feel like, but I've never been more motivated in my entire life, ever. Not for 1 minute, I don't think. So and a little goes a long way, guys. I'm not a rich dude, but I'm telling you, focus. It's about learning, dollar cost averaging, putting yourself in an optimal position, not adding layers of negative externalities, but allowing yourself low overhead. If you're a young man and if you're someone who's, trying to figure your shit out, low overhead. Don't put yourself in a position where you can fail, but really learn these concepts. Because I'm telling you guys, no one's looking at this stuff. It's like, what? Guys, I'll be back. 2 minutes and 6 seconds. Bullish is not in the house yet. He's with family. Come on. No, I'm just kidding. Bullish, we love you so much here. You know that. We will be back in 2 minutes, guys. Enjoy this little song. It's going to be a banger.
Young folks, you tripping on them motherfucker.
Richard Heart. Richard Heart.
Bought my Hex from the fucking start. Point one every day we mark. Bought my Hex from the fucking start. Sacrificing all this bread like I'm Richard Hart. Got paid on big payday and I had a hairy start. Now I'm checking on my pulse just to check my heart. Bought my Hex from the fucking start. Sacrificing all this bread like I'm Richard Hart. Got paid on big payday and I had a hairy start. Now I'm checking on my pulse just to check my heart. Checking my MetaMask moving. Look at the Hex, he is mooning. Looking at wives they be choosing. Peter is why they be losing. Pull chains out, now get me a check. He's gas up and it got me a mess. Remember the times he died collect. Hex I been eating, I'm dying in the best. Getting this back like a year ago. Getting this post, I ain't letting go. Swerving the ring like a Lambo. Getting this back like a year ago. Getting this post, I ain't letting go. Swerving the ring like a Lambo. Bought my Hex from the fucking start. Sacrificing all this bread like I'm Richard Hart. Got paid on big payday and I had a hairy start. Now I'm checking on my pulse just to check my heart. Bought my Hex from the fucking start. Sacrificing all this bread like I'm Richard Hart. Got paid on big payday and I had a hairy start. Now I'm checking on my pulse just to check my heart. Richard Hart. Richard Hart. Richard Hart. Richard Hart. Getting this back like a year ago.
That's an amazing song, man. That is a great intro. I love it.
DeFi Proof, thank you very much. He's coming out with a new Pulse Chain song. Dropped it here first. No music video yet, but I'm telling you, it's just as good. It's really, really good. He's a very talented, someone that can talk about DeFi and make a cool song. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Plus, what's up, Funding Jim? Good to see you, brother.
Yeah, Funding Jim's in the house, guys. What's up, dude?
It's exciting. I was just thinking during that video, there's been some pushback from some people about Richard Hart and the antics or the shock jockery or whatever. The point of DeFi, in my mind, is to be inclusive. And inclusive, if you think about finance, up until basically this project, in my mind, it's the wealthy, it's the well-to-do, it's the people that have networks. Again, Silicon Valley, there's a lot of nepotism. people end up investing into their kids' app or whatever that went to the same school. It's money on money kind of environment when it comes to like big finance, big movements. And an example of basically inclusion, or at least people sitting at the table, might be the Reddit stuff that happened with GameStop and silver shorts, and communities coming together that they pay attention to charts and graphs just like the biggest analysts at the biggest firms. But like the power of a community can overwhelm like the powers that be. And I really even in this bear time when a lot of people they may have a little bit of a lackluster feel about cryptocurrency or lackluster feel about their other investments and other assets. And this is one of the things where you really have reassurance from community, and you have math. Like it's math and community. That's what I love about this Hex community. And
it's way easier to do things with that community. Like there's plenty of data that shows if somebody was trying to stop smoking or drinking, to have that community, the support community around them. And when like you see an investment that you have that's dropped 90% or more, that can potentially be nerve-wracking to some people. And having people who are going through similar things, but also supportive in that process is really valuable.
People message me all the time and they say, we don't want you to stop. We love what you're doing. Like they don't have to message me. They could just watch and enjoy it, but they want me to do, they want to let me know that they have positive, feelings towards it, which makes me happier. Like, and it makes me more excited. Like, thank you. Like if someone says your show is amazing, I don't know how you did it or something like that. You're like, wow, incredible. Thank you so much. It only lights me up. Like I don't take anything as negatives. Like, just like it's a positive community, but no one's paying me to do this. There's funding. Richard, no one. All I wear is Pulse Chain shit. All I wear is Pulse X shit. All I wear is these shirts because this is truthfully the greatest thing I've ever gotten involved in.
It's just the beginning too. How exciting is that? This is just the start.
We can change everything in this world together.
Yeah. I wanted to comment on something about the relation to community and about being involved. So in my military career, I was never a militant person, but my military career started at 17, and then I went into special forces, and it was medic. I was a medic. So when people are injured, my sense of validation was, this person is hurt, and let's see if I can keep them alive long enough to get to what's called a battalion aid station. But basically, they get pushed to the rear where they get secondary things like a broken arm. You're not going to die from most of the time. But like that sense of validation that I was there in time to do something, right? So that gave me a lot of enthusiasm about medicine for a while. Then at 21 years old, I got selected for a school to specialize in like MRI, CT, echocardiography, all these different ways to look at the heart. And you felt like, okay, it's not immediate need. I guess it is. Like people come in with a heart attack, they go to the emergency room, hours later, they're getting the diagnostic from someone like myself. Then they're saying, okay, let's do a bypass or let's do a stent, right? So you still feel like you're helping that immediate patient that has an immediate need, right? Well, later, 7 years into my career, I had a second job. I started a second job. And the second job was at a clinical research site. And the clinical research site basically is how medicines are developed in the United States. You have trials. You have phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4 trials. And phase 1 is like all the chemistry and like animal studies and simple biology of how a few cells on a petri dish might react to a chemical compound, right, or whatever. And then phase 2, phase 3, those are the types of trials I was in most of. And what I'm getting at is in that you have what's called double-blind studies, meaning that the physician or the principal investigator, the coordinator, the nurse, whoever's interacting with the patient, they don't know. Does that patient have the standard of care, like say that they have heart disease of some kind, they've had a heart attack and they're trying to make their heart more efficient after an injury, right? So there's something that's called standard of care, which is what everybody gets, right? And half of the population will get that standard of care, and then half of the population will get that new medication, and then we will do a lot of measurements to see what was effective, right? Well, what's interesting is when you look at the statistical analysis of people that participate in clinical research versus people that don't, right? Same disease, same problem, same statistics. The placebo patients, not placebo, but people that get the new compound, regardless of if it was effective or not, always do better. They always have greater longevity. They always have better sense of self. They feel more cared about during their interaction at a clinical research site than they do typically at their doctor's office, their regular cardiologist or regular interaction. And it is because, there's that sense of community or belonging, or that you have a sense of purpose, that if it's not me that results in a compound that saves lives, I'm contributing to science in general, right? There's this sense of belonging and purpose, even in your ailment, even in your challenge, right? So I get a lot of that kind of feeling from, and it's heightened during bear markets, especially inside of Hex or crypto or whatever in general, is if you don't have a sense of community to rely upon, you're not growing as a person. It doesn't matter really as much about your portfolio's financial dollar equivalent value. It does, to me, it means something about, are you improving? Like you guys, learning what you learn in order to throw up a podcast or a video stuff, the interpersonal skills that you have to learn to become a good host, the ways to engage other people that are outside of the community you already are part of. How do you build bridges to other communities, right?
Wow,
so it's amazing. This community, especially in the bear, is really where, it gets distilled down. You kind of focus what you're listening to, who you're listening to, who you're being influenced by, because you're saying to yourself, during the good times, during the sunshine, where were they at? And during the not so sunshine, where are they at now? So it's a great.
We got spreadsheets with all you guys that are talking S. When you come back, we're at least going to shove it in your face. Okay, we do. We actually do. We have spreadsheets with all of you.
I see Model Dog's folder.
Yeah, no, that's what I was going off of. I just downloaded it. I was like, I'll add to the list if there's anything on it. I mean, guys, it's so important. I don't care what everyone says about us being territorial. It's like we have a finished software product and it gets fudded all the time. So it's like I'm allowed to get territorial a little bit. Sam, me and Sam know all about random double-blind placebo studies from our time in the pharmacology studies, which he still studies constantly. I have stopped pretty much, but I told Sam I wanted to join him on his podcast, maybe get a little more involved so we could bridge the gap. I have a few IFBB pros that follow the show. Yeah. So, it's not that hard, guys. Like I'm telling you, these people knows people. Like it's just because there's younger people, older people, retired IFBB pros. Like, people know people. It's so easy to have a once. Yes, I took care of the speaking thing. I knew I was going to be a good host because I just talked all the time. I did public speaking. It was clear to me. But I didn't know what I was going to do for the show. And then me and Sam were basically just like, why don't we just study for crypto? We just decided to take our studies to the real world because I saw there was a disconnect between Hex and new people coming in. There was just a mental, such a large gap of information that it takes to learn. And I was like, I'll just try to bridge that if any bit possible. But we got to talk about crypto for a second.
Sure.
Because my people are going to bring me to the stake. Maximus. Did you hear about the Maximus? We're going to talk about two things real quick. We're going to talk about the new Maximus project or updates that I'll talk about specifically. I have them all written down. And we'll talk about Sam wants to bring up the Hedron auctions and show you the value on a spreadsheet to see so far what has that value looked like. Of course, it's still speculative for the future, but as of right now, if you're buying on those auctions, Sam, you put some stuff together.
Fun, Jim. I'd like to see your feedback or thoughts on it. Did the NPV for the NFTs just to see where they're at and versus the selling price or what they're actually selling for to calculate a discount rate. I find that stuff interesting. I don't know how many other people find it interesting, but I find that stuff interesting. So we're going to be covering that in a few minutes. I'd love to hear your feedback because I know you have a lot of finance.
The person to talk with, again, I think you should invite him on the show. I think they travel on the first, but the Crypto Sparbot guys, Patrick Hexline, he knows a lot about Hedron. I mean, he knows a lot about the origin people and the people involved, and he's a mathematician in his brain when he talks. Hedron content definitely. Patrick, I think, has good opinions because he was flooding me a little bit yesterday with it because I was like, I can't understand it, but I'll be glad when Sam covers it. But as far as the Maxi product, I participated in Maxi. I thought that was a good thing to comment about because it's 5555 stakes. It feels like it's community pulling together in that particular effort. So I like the Maxi product. I don't know enough about the auctions, but I will learn more today from you. about auctions and what the value is of whether it's. I did look through it. I saw the two things that were coming up. I don't know that there were auctions. There were two things that expired 2 days ago.
Well, more so, I was looking at the NFTs this morning and it built out. Like I did a separate video, it'll be out later today if anybody wants to catch it. But the valuation of you have NFTs that are representing Hedron and Hex, right? So we have prices for Hedron, we have prices for Hex, and we have this NFT. So does it make sense to purchase the NFT at the price they're listing at? Or is that a bad deal or is it a good deal? And how could you figure this out so that you know if it's a good deal or bad deal to purchase?
And we're going to talk about this slow so people can realize, like, I don't care what everyone says about trading, blah, blah, blah. I just like looking at the numbers and everything. The Maxi Premium, similar to what Sam's kind of talking about. There's arbitrage opportunity here. Yeah. This is what he's speaking of. It's not, all the fancy words. There's value over here. There's value over here. People are picking a side and someone's getting the worst end of the deal at this moment, but that doesn't mean there's extrapolated value there. So it's important to look at all of it. But Sam loves looking at these ARB opportunities because say what you want, 75% premium on Maxi, and me and Sam were all over that. I mean, we were covering it, we were spreadsheeting it. I
have multiple videos on it before.
Yeah, so we were excited about it, and I think these products are the future. I really like these kind of products. And this product I'm going to talk about right now, I need you guys to listen carefully because I'm going to read this off. I don't want to pull it up because it's in my DMs. But so what is Team token? So Team is a new token. This is from the Maximus team. Sounds like Team is the second token. There is an unnamed token that represents the 1-year perpetual rolling stake contract, similar to Maxi. So the difference there is right now it's unnamed. So we're just saying the Team token, but it seems like it's unnamed. But the Team is the second token. There is an unnamed token that represents the 1-year perpetual rolling stake contract. What does that mean, perpetual rolling stake?
It just comes every single year. It doesn't go away. It's just going to stay in perpetuity. It's going to
So you mean
forever.
Stakes, unstakes, stakes, and unstakes at the end of the year, though?
What I would hear was when people would do like an Indian run, like where you have a row of people and then someone from the back runs around to the front, right? Yeah. And I think that's the staking. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I've heard as far as rolling ladders or rolling stakes is that, you might have a 5-year set, but, 5 years out in the future. And then once you've achieved that, then the new principal, you take the yield, but the new principal rolls around to the front again and restakes.
We're talking about 1-year perpetual rolling stakes here. So I think the 1-year specification there would just mean
You know how Maxis are one-time thing?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the perpetual, if like the idea that comes to my mind as you're mentioning this is that you put together like some type of structure in a DAO or something like that and code, hopefully that's hard coded in some way, where it just continually rolls, like Funding Jim was saying, so that you could have this thing that's tradable for what a 1-year stake represents in Hex, but it stays perpetually, like, because they can just do 1 year and it protect like 3 days in. Now the 1-year stake from 3 days in, and it just kind of rolls like that. So you can have something that's tradable that represents a 1-year stake of Hex, like a derivative of a 1-year Hex stake, and it just stays there. Where like the Maxi is going to go away at 15 years. Right? So this would just stay there. This is
the next step of the Maximus. Seems like this is their next step. This is what they think the next best thing will be for the ecosystem. What did they realize when they created Maxi? It was more needed than they realized. I guarantee they were like, whoa. This is crazy. These guys that are a bit smaller love this product, period. And then the guys that are bigger love the product too, because they're like, I can control it, like classic, right? Like, but it's incredible because the one thing about Maxi is it's a one-time mint phase. And I'm not sure how that's going to look in the trading aspect. Like how many Maxi tokens will never be moved? I couldn't tell you, but like that could be a very high number. But the next step for the Maxi token, they did this all because they wanted to negate ETH fees. And it turned into this. So you got to understand, guys, he came into this looking to he was like, there's a problem here, ETH fees. They're getting too expensive. That's what he said he started this because of. And look what it's turned into. Trading, max length value, added Hedron. There's security benefits, security risks as well. But I forgot what I was going to say. I want to continue reading. the thing. So what is Team? The next step for the Maximus token sounds like Team is the second token. There is an unnamed token that represents the 1-year perpetual rolling stake contract. Shorter time frame, lower return, but perpetual. Same as Maxi in that it is a pooled stake, different in that it rolls into a new stake every year. So we could stop it there for a second. So that's kind of what we were getting onto, I think, right?
Does that mean that the yield from the original stake gets added to the stake and compounds every year?
It sounds like you can take out your piece if you'd like. So it seems like if funding's like, hey, this was a great year for me, I would like to take some of these stakes out and maybe use them for something else. It sounds like you could just take it out, but the stake will go on without you.
We gotta have Dip Catcher back on and get into the details.
Trust me,
awesome. These are interesting concepts because again, it can be in a liquid position, but it can people like an example. People get Maxi, and then they end up selling Maxi, but then they do want to recapture Maxi later on because it is this arbitrage. It's a secondary chart, right? And that secondary chart, people are going to speculate on where it's going, where it's headed, all the different stickiness of trading. But it is interesting because a rolling stake, the question I would have is it compounding? And if it is compounding every year, even if it's only like a 6 or 7 or 8% yield in new hex because of the rolling aspect, over 10 years, 15 years, if the single token represents the position of the principal that generates new yield and compounds every year, I would hold that token. I don't think I would trade that token.
Yeah. Explain that, because I think a lot of people may miss the point there, because when people think about a perpetual thing, as in like you put money in and then you take your money out, but what you're describing is different. And I think what you're describing seems to be like how I would think about if you kind of have a treasury, so to speak, where it just sits there and the position is represented in the market by Team token or whatever you want to call it, and that just stays there and continues to compound.
The contract for Hex says that short stakes can never generate more yield than one single long stake. So that's why a 5555 can generate more Hex than compounding, 1 year and compounding over and over, taking the principal plus the yield and then restaking that portion over again. So compounding doesn't ever mathematically get more Hex. But it comes to like, what is the market sentiment at the time? Does that add to the perceived value of this Team token because we're in a bear versus a bull? There's all kinds of stuff that our human brain tries to wrap around and say, well, what's the future value of this thing? And some people will latch into the idea of rolling. They have rolling CD ladders. There's all kinds of things that you roll real estate. There's all kinds of things that you already do that are similar. And to have something that says mathematically you're always going to have more yield if you do 15 years is the unique unicorn in the room that sometimes people don't grab as much speculatively. So I think it's interesting. I think it's worthwhile. If it does launch a Team token, I would participate. I think that's a.
I'm going to participate in a disgusting fashion because everything these guys touch turn into gold because they have great intentions. It takes an intimate understanding of like the Hex ecosystem to understand like the intentions of these two guys, but like I happen to talk to them quite often, so it's like it's clear as day to me. I tell these guys they need to make more money. I'm like, you guys should be charging for something. Like, charge for something. Let me pay you something. Like, not me, but like with.
Is this Gold Key or who is this? Who are these people?
Catcher that I'm generally talking to, but Gold Key as well. They're both together.
I like Gold Key.
They're great guys. I mean, come on. I've never seen a guy with a better attitude than Dip Catcher. Dude's coding all day. Probably he's getting married. It's like he's busier than I am. Probably like smile ear to ear. And I'm on Team Maxi. I love Maxi. Like, I just love it. It was in a perfect spot for me. Like, there were some of my funds that I just did not want to continue to stake, period. Like, I was just 15, 11 years plus staking ladder. I was ready to try something else. And this just popped up. And I was like, this is great. Like, maybe at one point, if I ever want to sell something, like this can be an easier avenue for that rather than me, getting involved with those stakes at all. But now I think it's a use case, the year perpetual stake for like a different class of people.
That it could be, but so my thinking as we're discussing this, if this is successful at a 1 year, also what's the thinking behind 1 year? Why don't you just do a 15-year perpetual, right? Because that you can create the same thing what one Jim was saying. I had this coin that you could get 38% yields on, and it's just perpetually staying there.
Yeah, but why?
15 years.
That's too long because obviously they already did that, and they could do that again with a different token.
But the perpetuality of it is there, so that could be why. But it'll be super interesting.
Maxi can't happen again, though. So it's going to be. They had to do. It would have been weird if they added another 15-year. I don't know. These guys.
Correct. You're right. Because
I think the use case is different. They're trying to create an army here. These guys are smart guys. They want to create an army of the littler guys, and of course, there's big guys involved. But like, they want the littler guys like me. I'm like, Max is great. Like, This is all natural. Dip Catcher was never in my DMs. He never once said you should buy this. He never once asked me if I should review this. Never. Yeah. I just started covering it right away because I was like, derivatives market. Like,
well, what I like about it is the smart contract of community coming together for a single stake. That's what I liked about Maxi. So you had, like you said, the littler guy, the save on the transaction, all the other things about it if you want to. But like when we had this conversation, and I don't know that others did it back in AA days, but the reward of 150 million hex, I think, was to get 10% more or something like that, to max out the 10% more. I can't remember what the math was, but I know there was a goal for a lot of people to get 150 million hex.
Yeah,
way back in the beginnings, and there was some kind of like mathematical reason to get that threshold.
10% bonus on 150 million.
Bonus max or something. I can't remember what it was. And so I remember people talking back then in Telegram saying, "Hey, do you want to pool with me? I'll trust you. You trust me." Right. And that does open you up to risk, right? It opens you up to loss or someone disappearing or whatever it is, right? Some misfortune happening in the guy's life that has the key, right? So I didn't like that element. And I haven't really, I never pooled with anybody, honestly, as far as these individual stuff. Even during sacrifices and stuff like that, there was a lot of pooling going on. I like Maxi because it is a smart contract that allows people to pool, and you still have a safety element that is smart contract code versus individual. And you do have some loss of, there's going to be some loss of the Maxi token. Some people are going to forget their keys, lose their keys, whatever. And so there's going to be that scarcity model that happens inside of Bitcoin and other things that can become, considered
anything with the human error.
Not really trading against you,
This is all pretty crazy stuff. But another thing that Dip Catcher mentioned, that the code wasn't out yet, and he like emphasized like 10 times that he doesn't want me to just, or not me, but like his intention was to like let everyone know that this was occurring. He's like on a honeymoon / like marriage situation. I don't know exactly which. That's not the realm that I.
Like, my wife is in the other room. I gotta go as soon as she gets out of the shower.
I gotta go save the world. But we're going to move on, guys. I'm going to make sure I have all the information. I'm going to finish reading the rest. Actually, I forgot there was another large paragraph attached to this. So shorter time frame, lower return, but perpetual. Same as Maxi in that it's a pooled stake. Different in that it rolls into a new stake every year. As per Mr. Dip Catcher, there will be a minting period where you can burn Maxi and mint Team. Team holders share 50% of the bigger pays better bonus, which may be redeemed in hex.
Wait, can you start that? You can mint Team by burning Maxi.
So basically, they'll do another 1-for-1 mint phase. So you'll put your Maxi.
Not with hex. With Maxi.
No, with Maxi. That's what the next step. That's what I'm saying.
No, correct. I just wanted to highlight that because it's different. It's unique. I like it. Okay, go ahead, please.
He loves the Maxi squad, and you can still get Maxi. The premium, in my opinion, is
that reduces supply of that.
That's what I'm saying. This is going to pump Maxi for sure, 100%, 100%. It can't not pump Maxi in some way, shape, or form. Okay, so. We'll read it one more time. Where you can burn, there will be a minting period where you can burn Maxi and mint Team. It's probably going to be 1-for-1. Team holders share 50% of the bigger pays better bonus, which may be redeemed in hex yearly after perpetual 1-year pooled stake finishes in its cycle. So basically, Sam, you can extract your value of hex out of this at the end of the year, but the Maxi is burnt. So the Maxi value is still there, but it's burnt. But that, remember, Maxi is 1-for-1 hex in and out. So the number, I'm sorry, I can
So
think
you can
about it in
burn,
my
you
head,
can
but I can't.
you can pull 50% of the. So that's funny, Jim. That's different than how we were thinking about that completely. But go ahead and finish reading it, and then I might ask you to read through it one more time.
Okay, so I'll read it. I'll read it all the way from the top to bottom. Mr. Dipcatcher, there will be a minting period where you can burn Maxi and mint team. Team holders share 50% of the bigger pays better bonus, which may be redeemed in Hex yearly after perpetual 1-year pooled stakes finishes its cycle. Moreover, other things may be dropped to team stakers, guys. He always mentions this. He says he's got a lot of ideas for all. When you're involved in these staking features, he's always going to mention the little airdrop carrot he puts in front of it. For example, I'm guessing here, bonuses from other pools from this ecosystem. Keep in mind that there is no expectations and all of these things may fail. Okay, with the maxi supply being roughly 294 million and indication some percent of the supply will be burnt for mint token. So there's 294 million right now, and some of that supply, depending on how many people participate, will be burnt. I have to say I can't wait for more I have to say can't wait for more detail about the token distribution of the team. Hope you are doing great. Okay, yeah. So it was a message.
Wait a minute. So when you mint this team, are you saying that the maxi that's used to mint is burned? Where was the burn element?
So it says there will be a minting period where you can burn maxi
and
mint team.
Okay. And then when you say like annualized reward, is that something where like on Hedron, you can see, oh, now I can mint a certain amount of Hedron, but it might be because you have team, you can mint a certain amount of Hex as your reward every time. Is it something like that? Like
basically you can mint up to a certain amount of like the portion which you have in there, but I'm not sure how it like.
It also sounds like it's going to be a higher than a 6, 7, 8, 9% return too, because he said 50% of the annual or the bigger pays better or whatever it was bonus. So if you have 50% of that, it's going to be higher than whatever.
Yeah, if you tried to do it on your own, if you said, hey, I only want to have rolling single year stakes. That's why a lot of people do 5-year out. You know, they did 2-year, and then later they, once Hex was getting traction, I heard people, staking and doing rolling ladders 5-year or 10-year. And then once that 2 years had gone by, people started doing 5. And then once 5 years comes by, they'll take that principle and they'll restake that, out in the future. And, price performance and, yield and things like that all come into their head about why they do that. But it seems interesting. I think that's an interesting concept, especially if it's all smart contract driven. I like the smart contract element.
And year one for one minted Hex, Maxi is going to have more value now, whether you like it or not, Mr. Funding Jim. Whether you participate or not, you've already participated in Maxi. This, by definition, will pump the price relative to what it would be in comparison to the market. Think about all the tokenomics about Maxi, the first piece of Dipcatcher's beautiful little organic derivatives market that he's creating. It's incredible. Learning about this for the first time. I didn't even know what a derivative was until 30 days ago. I swear to God. So this is all the reason I'm so, so excited is because this is the first time I'm learning about this stuff. I never learned about, I never knew what a derivative was. I didn't even I heard the word, but I just never really cared. I didn't know what anything was before this. So this is I'm one of the first guys that has been completely molded by the Hexicans. There was no other financial teacher. It was Richard took me in, you guys took me in, and you taught me. And it's oh, this is good. I'm really just enjoying this. I have to use the bathroom real quick. Sam, do you want to go into the Hedron part of it? We covered Maxi, guys. We're bullish, okay? We're bullish. And let's get into Hedron because it's a more complicated concept for the average person, including myself. But Alex from Hedron, smart guy. So I refuse to believe they did not think about all these factors, adoption curve. Sam, let's look at the rates.
Yeah. So for Hedron, for people who are not, let me actually pull up Hedron.pro so we can take a look at this. And with your Hedron.pro, you can take your Hex and you put it into the front end that is Hedron, which allows you to get the native token of Hedron, but you put your hex through there instead of through hex.com. And what that allows you to do, because you put like your hex contract inside of another contract, you can basically trade that. Think of something in real estate, like, well, right? I'm talking to you, that's what I'm thinking about this, is trading paper, right? If you're trading paper, like if I get a house under contract, wholesaling it to somebody else kind of thing, is how at least makes sense in my mind. Now, when that happens, you can actually take your stake and you can create an NFT. So if you did a 3-year stake or 10-year stake, you're kind of stuck with that. There's not much you can do, and that's where you'd be like, hey, Sam, I have this stake for this much. I'll sell it to you at like a discount, right, or whatever, but I don't even think that would work, right, because you're going to have the seed phrase associated with it, right? It just doesn't, you're kind of stuck with it, period. And this allows you to have liquidity brought into Hex stakes, because you can stake through Hedron, you can convert it to an NFT and sell it on this OpenSea. OpenSea is the largest NFT marketplace on Ethereum. So I'm like, this presents a very interesting opportunity. What if you could buy these NFTs at a discount, right? Because then you're basically getting Hex at a discount, because these NFTs represent a position in Hex and Hedron. So if you could buy these at cheaper than what you could in today's dollars, then you could be getting a discount on stakes and Hex, and that is super appealing for a lot of people. So what I did was I took this stake that was right here, 0.08 T shares, and it gives you all the data in here. And then I took another stake. The reason I use this stake is because this one is actually sold. So this sold for about 160 bucks, which we're going to get into in a second. And I wanted to get an applied like discount rate that they used. And then I used that to help value this position. So you can take, like, it's a little bit complex, but you can take what's currently in the marketplace to get an idea of how things are pricing. And then you can use that to price something that hasn't sold yet. So like comparables, if you're looking at in real estate and you're looking at 3-family houses that have, 1,300 square feet or 1,400 square feet, you can kind of get the idea in the neighborhood of what that house might sell for that you're going to do. So that's kind of like the idea behind this. And because I'm a nerd, I put this onto a spreadsheet we're going to take a look at. You guys see this? Okay. So in that first one that we took a look at, that it sold on 5/9 for 144 bucks. There was an OpenSea fee of $4, and then a mainnet fee of $11 on Ethereum. So that means 160 bucks. So the dude paid 100, or the dude or female paid 160 bucks for the position here. What is that? Was that like a good deal? So this is all from within the OpenSea platform. The stake represented about 600 Hex, 25,000 Hedron, this much in terms of a T share. It's approximately 6 Hex per day. The length was 5,000 days. So that means the future Hex earned on this would be about 2,600. 2,600 Hex they would earn between day now, 0, and day 15 or whatever. They'd earn another day, so they get 4 or 5x of what they actually put in here at the top. If you look at Hex price and Hedron price today, then this would be a value of 250 bucks roughly. Well, together would be right? This is basically nothing. The Hedron is for a total future value of 247 bucks. So what is that? What does that represent? Let me pull up a little chart here to show you. The price that we just took a look at, can you see this okay? Let me make it smaller. So what we just took a look at is the $247 is in the future. That's this right here. How do you compare this with today's dollars if this is 15 years in the future? We have this, and we don't have this number here. So what we can do is a little bit of math, and we can calculate this. It comes to be 2.95%. So what does that mean? That means that this person, without realizing it, paid a discount of 2.95% on their future value of $247 worth at today's prices. when it sounds complex, GRC or Funny Jim, where do you guys have any questions yet before we get into the other one?
So you have fields that you extracted from OpenSea that put into the spreadsheet, and then where I'm asking where you pull the data from, and can you automate that? You know, there's a lot of API you can automate your spreadsheets.
That is a question for somebody that's far smarter than me in the technical side. I would love to automate this because that's the opportunity.
Yeah, so Firebun helped me with some of my original Hex stuff when I was calculating things about the APIs. You know, so if not him, I mean, he's super busy, but there's other people that definitely know how to pull this data automatically into your spreadsheet, your Google Sheet.
Because what you can do is you can automate this, and then, so let's. I'm going to run through one example and then touch on what you were just saying. Okay, so that one had already sold, right? This one here has not sold yet. So this one here represents, and this all comes from OpenSea. The hex in the NFT on OpenSea is 10,000. Hedron represents 236,000. It's it is about half of a T-share. Again, we get about 6 hex per day. The length of this one that has not sold was 90 days, not 5,555 days. That represents 264 future hex. Right? And all you're doing to get this number is the T-share rate times the hex per day times the length of the period of the stake. Right? That represents 265 roughly. Given today's values right up here, that means that this minus the transaction fee to end it, and this could obviously be different, right? This is the end stake here, but that would represent about $755. So you're like, well, what does all this mean, Sam? Like, get to the effing point. Well, given that the market, we just saw this, is discounting things at 3%, that means that the future value today, so that means if we take this value and we bring that down or back to today, from 90 days in the future back to today's dollars at a 3% discount, just like the other contract, like the other one sold for, today it sells for $745. So does it make sense to pay $1,500? The current selling price, the current price on OpenSea is $1,500. It is valued at $750. Does that make any sense to pay that price? You basically have a negative proposition there. So no, it doesn't make any sense. Now, going back to what Funding Jim just said, if you could automate this, how could this make sense? If there's a pop, if there's a run up in hex price and people are not paying attention to
which they won't be right away.
And you can automate the process to go purchase the NFT. So say hex price. If I pull this back up for a second, if you go up here and say this price is now say 26 cents, right? This is not 26 bucks, but 26 cents. That means this all updates. That means you can buy it for $1,500, and the future value of your proposition here is $2,600. So you make $1,100 profit on this, right? This allows you to basically buy it at a discount. You buy your hex stake and your Hedron at a discount to today's dollars. So as time goes on, and say there's a run up and people don't adjust their pricing in OpenSea, you can buy your shit at a discount because there's going, like GRC said, there's going to be people who are not paying attention to the details, and they're going to forget that they have something listed for $1,500 on OpenSea, and it's actually worth $2,600.
In a year, this will be common knowledge. You know, like in a year, there'll be bots for everything, and there will already be bots for a lot of stuff. But again, like we're the guys that kind of like learn this stuff first, so it's kind of up to us to like, if we believe in this market long term. Which, come on, like, would you rather me and Funding Jim and people that love this shit to death, like, be involved in these? You know, like, it's a good deal, but it's also like the right people. That's why everyone always mentions, like, in T-Bird was mentioning all these derivative products, they're like going to filter, or what did he exactly say? I kind of disagree. It's like Hex has all the pumpamentals. Maxi is a value add. If you end up building derivatives over derivatives, shit will start to get stupid like it does in Legacy. Yeah, but the people will be different. You know, the people will be, I understand. Like, I understand what you're saying, but I do disagree.
Derivatives, a lot of the times in Legacy, are based on like leverage. So you'll have a leverage position that's called a derivative, where this is just Maxi is just a representation of a larger pool of things. So it's not exactly the same thing. Was that T-Bird who said that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they're two different things, because if you look at like options, right? Options are a derivative of stocks, right? You could have derivatives of like ETFs as well, options of ETFs. They're leveraged positions. So that's where you can get into like shit getting really funky, right? Where Maxi's not that at all, completely different. What are your thoughts on the pricing of NFTs and the potential value or opportunity there? Funny, Jim.
Well, when you list on OpenSea, is it that you're setting the price? You're setting the price. It's not something that you can move without doing a new transaction, right? Take it off market, take it off auction, put it on auction, set a new price. Is it like eBay? I really haven't worked with OpenSea enough.
I haven't worked with it either, but there is a price listed for the one that I value. It says it's listed and it says $1,500. So there may be that option where it says, "Hey, open market. What does anybody want to pay? It's going to be out there for 7 days." Or there may be the option that's like, "Hey, it's $1,500. If somebody wants to buy it for $1,500, I'll do it." I haven't never bought an NFT other than like looking at these. This is like the first time I really looked at that.
Yeah, I don't know if it works again, so I have to do investigation. I'm curious more about NFT stuff. I associate with people that are into NFT a lot, and I'm getting more of an education about it than I had before. And so, from what I remember is not that long ago, there was a JPEG that a guy had listed on Rarible or OpenSea. I can't remember which one it was. And because he listed it at a premium price at that time, and then he didn't ever actually go through the blockchain and take it back off market, someone came along and bought it for the price that he had listed it for. And he had listed it for like $2,000 or $3,000, which was a premium at the time that he listed it. But then he forgot about it, or it didn't go through the blockchain version. He only went through the OpenSea, take it off the listing. And people actually went through the blockchain later and bought it, because they said, "Okay, I'll get it for that amount of ETH. I'll get it," because it was worth $700,000 in the open market when he had listed it for like $2,000 or $3,000. So he was upset. He's like, "Man, I thought I had taken it off the market. I thought I had this monkey picture that's worth all this money." So if it's something where people are paying attention, and it is OpenSea or Rarible or whatever NFT platform comes on Pulse Chain in the future or something, I think it's interesting. I don't. The eBay thing was a phenomenon when it came out, 20 years ago or whatever, and it was that people would list stuff, and it was at first it was rare and hard to find, and you never saw that car part except for on eBay, and then it became normalized, and the whole auction sniping and software to auction snipe and all that stuff started to happen. So I can see the same stuff happening with NFTs, and Hex being a play in your mathematical mind about what's its future value versus today's value, what's my unwrapped cost and things like that. It really does get to the technical brain, and there's people that gobble that stuff up. The people that program their Android phone and love math and numbers and see future value for future fair market value versus perceived value. At the moment, it's very cool. I think it's great.
So I'm excited because this. I never heard that what you just mentioned about the guy who lost his he sold his NFT.
He didn't lose it. He listed it. He didn't pay attention. It goes to the point you were saying. People that pay attention to it, they will readjust their price or their sale price, or when they mint something to put and list, they're gonna build in a premium. The market's going to reject that, like you just went through your spreadsheet and says, "Hey, I'm not going to pay $2,500 when it only has $1,500 worth of future value." Right? That's your analysis, and that feeds your interest, your curiosity about that marketplace. And so they're going to speculate to overprice. The market's going to say no, probably, and then that person often, because there's a little bit of tedium of readjusting or whatever it is on Ethereum, a little bit of overhead to reset your price point. A lot of people will forget, and when they forget, then they may have a $50,000 NFT that gets sold for $2,000. So it is possible. It's very cool.
I like the thought of tokenized NFTs, or what's the word for it? I guess I like the HSIs. I think that that's going to be a thing no matter what, and I think although it's complicated now, I think in the future this is going to be pretty standard. But again, we're just looking at value opportunities between two coins. Like at the end of the day, that's always what it looks like to me in my head. I don't really think about much, but I'm like, these things will move together in a degree. If you know enough about Hedron and the goals of Hedron, moving with Hex at some point is going to be, like if Hex is as explosive and parabolic as we all know it can be and is, a lot of these other things with lower market cap are going to be explosive and parabolic too. In a bull market, if these things survive, and in a bull market, like it's going to be crazy. Like it's going to be insane if we all have our bags and we're just chilling, having a good time, buying good deals here, a little bit of DCA here. And then next thing you know, you're just in another situation because of the things that these guys taught me. They told me not to sell my stuff just to keep making money DCA. And it's worked great. Now I'm like 3 cents, 5 cents. It's just been, even in a bear market in crypto now, there's so much opportunity. It's disgusting. It is disgusting. That's why I decided, like, bear market or not, I'm covering this shit every day. This is too big. There's too much going on. I am in just a perfect position where I can cover this every day at 11. And I think that this is going to help, like, Hex. I actually, like, isn't that cool to say? Like, I can actually help.
Yeah.
Like, it's awesome. Like, just like you were saying with the medic stuff, like, I feel like a man. Like, I feel like I can help do something good. And I love that.
Purpose. It gives you a sense of purpose. It is great to be part of community and to be a thought leader that way. That's great.
What do you guys think about Pulse Chain moving forward? Some of these projects on the other side. Okay, as far as like the bear market, the timing, the Pulse Chain launch, what's your take on that now? Me and Sam could give a rat shit when Pulse Chain drops. More time for me to prepare, the better. Literally. Every day that goes by is an absolute blessing to me. I have another day where I can prepare myself. This is complicated stuff. But what do you think about when we launch? I don't know anything about launching in a bear market, but everyone says like it's very easy to get explosive gains if you're launching a layer 1 in the bear market. Talk about that if you have any idea about like the macro on that.
Well, I mean, bear markets are the time where you have you're more conservative in your psychology, so you actually do more analysis. Usually you see, okay, when the bull is here, whether it's stock, bond, this company is a good idea, I'm going to give my neighbor's kid $500,000 to launch the Yo app. Have you ever heard of the Yo app? Do you know what that is? So it's kind of a trope now, but it was in Silicon Valley. Like I said, there's a lot of nepotism. People that have made a lot of money, and then their neighbor's kid wants to launch an app also, and then it gets funded. And you're like, why did that silly idea get funded? That's silly, right? There was $1 million that was raised for effectively a Twitter that would only allow you 2 characters, not 156 characters or whatever the number, 256, but 2. And so it was called the Yo app. You could say yo to your friends. That's all you could do. You do like a batch. All your friends could get yo'd at the same time. One friend could get yo'd. And it was like, this is the dumbest idea ever. And yet it got funded. And the guy that built the app, effectively made $1 million, right? He did, but nobody made ROI. No one put money into it. And that's what I'm saying is when you have a bull, then you're malinvesting. You're not really scrutinizing because you throw the dart and anything's going to make money for you in a bull, right? Happened in the stock market and happens in crypto. We have these euphoric phases where just sounds reasonable. I'll throw it out there. They've got a white paper. Sounds good. They got one guy on LinkedIn that looks like Brad Pitt. That's got to be a good project, So, I mean, it becomes the stupid that votes. And then when you have a bear is where you should be looking at when the tide went out, who was swimming naked, who was actually that idea or that concept really didn't float in the bear. Things should be productive. Things should be useful. Things should be speculatively sticky in bears. If they're in bears, they're going to do amazing in bulls. So, so that's kind of my take on it.
I went through, appreciate that, and I thought it was a good analogy there. I went through and I was inspired by the post that you did on Twitter to look at layer 1s and layer 2s. And I compared Solana, ADA, Ethereum, and Binance. as well as Pancake and Uniswap. And when you look at the 1-year returns, the layered ones perform better across the board. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And when I posted the thing about Uniswap and PulseX and PancakeSwap and PulseX, if they had this many X's, right, then that would be equivalent. If you put in $10,000, this would equate to this amount of money, assuming those are the accurate numbers. And it seems to be the sentiment that like nobody believes that it's going to be like Uniswap had a 24x in the first year. PancakeSwap had, I think, a 65x in the first year. No, it's across the comments. So it had like 135 likes and 129 different comments on it. And the sentiment was that nobody believes that it's going to be much greater than PancakeSwap on there. And I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that, because the tokenomics of PulseX, I don't know them on PancakeSwap, but they're different than Uniswap. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that.
So I didn't use a lot of the other derivative other than Uniswap because Hex first launched on Uniswap, and that was my play until 1inch and Matcha basically became aggregators. So I don't use Uniswap anymore. But those are while it's in my head, let me ask this question: have you ever thought, okay, Bitcoin had competition with Ethereum, and that's why Bitcoin maxis didn't like Ethereum. And then Ethereans have competition with other forks or whatever. That's why they typically don't like other L1s, forks, or whether it's Cardano or New Code or Tron or whatever, right? And I don't know that there's hostility between the development teams of Ethereum and Uniswap as a DEX. I don't know that there's super alignment or there's any kind of, hey, you're taking our volume. So imagine this. Have you ever thought that what if the people that developed Bitcoin years later, developed Ethereum, and it wasn't seen as competition because it's the same people. The same people that helped Bitcoin said, hey, we're going to develop this new thing. It's going to be completely aligned, and it's going to be smart contracts, on Bitcoin. We're just going to call it Ethereum. Okay, so there's alignment. There's economic alignment. There's same dev team, same community. Let's scale up. Let's get more people. And then years later, a decentralized exchange and stable coins and things like that are developed by the same people. That's basically what we have with Pulse Chain. We have alignment of the same community, even though it's growing, same community that was Hex, and which is the Bitcoin narrative, the smart contract enabling network, which is the L1 of Pulse Chain, the exchange. You've never seen alignment. You've never seen the economic energy between, these three types of tools, but the same group. You've never seen that. You've seen Bitcoin maxis pissed off at Ethereum people and hating on them for 6 years. They hate on them. They still think that the Ethereum's a scam to their one world coin.
So stupid.
Yeah. So, and then you see the same thing play out with Ethereans. Ethereans want to battle with everybody that is somehow competing with their L1 position. But this is actually kind of like a new universe where there's social alignment, because you're in Pulse Chain, but you're not in Hex. I'm not hating on you, right? You're in Pulse Chain. I'm in Pulse Chain too, because that's enabling all these other things that are inside the same ecosystem. I've never seen alignment with all those things. And then finally, if a wallet comes out in the future or some other tool that is product market fit and serves great utility to the same group, the people that use Hex, the people that use Pulse Chain, the people that use a DEX, people that use a wallet, whatever that new future tool might be, you've never seen alignment. You've never seen the same founder. You haven't seen Satoshi actually be Vitalik, actually be Hayden. You haven't seen those things. But now you do. You have a reason that the same founder or the same founding group or the same core or the same, philosophy aligned, the same philosophy,
Think about that. Think about a wallet that is tied into PulseX where you don't have to pay a fee other than the PulseX fee. Right? If you could go into the wallet on your phone, and you could swap between anything else. There's not a ridiculously exorbitant fee in there, and in that same wallet, you can stake your hex and do everything all in that wallet, or do it with Hedron, or
there's going to be so much stuff coming out. Like, this could very well absolutely change crypto forever.
So I have one more question. I have probably a lot more questions, but funny, Jim. So, or GRC. We talked about the flight to safety, or like during bear markets, people put money in dollars or T-bills or et cetera, right? So in the crypto market, it kind of flows to Bitcoin, so to speak. Well, do you see that transition switching as soon as something else holds the when something else holds that highest market value, highest like market cap value?
Well, I think that it'll be the 7 stages of mourning. I think the people that say that can't be, it'll be the denial stage, and then it'll be the anger stage, and then it'll be finally the acceptance stage, about whether it's market cap position or what's my, my free things that I gave away for nothing because of this pulse chain fork. And, I know that some idiot's going to buy this from me for some amount of money, and I'm going to sell it for a nickel against my dollar on Ethereum coin, like the fork. They're going to say, ha, 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 I made that money. But there's going to be a realization. I think there's going to be a realization. It's like, oh, man, I screwed up and I have to buy back in. And I'll buy back in a way that overshoots its fair market value on Ethereum's chain. So it's exciting. I mean, it's a lot of excitement because human nature, we have these tribal, and everybody that's been talking about crypto for as long as they have, it used to be crypto is tribal against fiat and banks. And then it was like, we're going to bank the world. We're just going to be a different kind of bank. We're still going to be banks, but we're going to be a different kind of bank. And then there was like, we don't like middlemen, but everything puts itself in a position of being a middleman, So it's interesting if you actually have a mission statement to say, let's build a nation. What do we need? We need these things. What's out there right now that's kind of competing with each other instead of synergizing with each other? Well, there's the Bitcoin and its store of value narrative and its group that's been around 13 years, and or short time. They think that they're going to have the same multiple as people that started out, and influencers and so forth. You haven't seen something where there's so much alignment. This community has amazing alignment. Maybe there's 200,000 of us or whatever the number is, but the information feed, the look at what's happened in the general crypto market. This is why these things worked out, or why they failed. This is why they got gate kept, or why they got opened up and accepted. We haven't had that kind of synergy opportunity as we do now.
This is so powerful, GRC. We were literally talking to somebody in the comments, or Beth Meta or something yesterday. And he was like, hey, I have Pulse X and Pulse. I don't have any hex. This is my thoughts on it, right? And he was mentioning this yesterday. And what Funny Jim is saying, right? Because at some point, hypothetically, I would love it if Richard does something like that, where you could swap inside the app. How freaking amazing would that be? That would be cool. Like that differentiator, just because you can get your value from these 3 pieces, and this is just an add-on to make this whole thing better. Wow, that could be incredible. But the point of what you were mentioning is everything has some type of tribalism to that, right? Now, if you have these 4 things in an ecosystem, each one of these can bring adoption. I don't know if we've showed you, I like the macro picture on some things as well. And there's an adoption curve happening in crypto. If you look at any other technology, you name it, it follows an adoption curve that looks similar to an S curve, right? So it starts out really, really, really slow, ramps up very quickly. When it gets to 70, 80, 90%, it starts to taper the other direction, and it's kind of like a S, right? Mm-hmm. Crypto, and where does this, if you look at like the statistical data, right, at this point where it hits the kink, where it starts to accelerate, is around 2.5 standard deviations. So we can like the center on a bell curve, which is, we already passed that number in crypto. We're at around 3.8% according to crypto.com. That means that acceleration in the adoption of crypto is going to happen.
Yeah.
It's happened with every single technology the past 13 years to go from 0% adoption to about 4% adoption.
Right.
From 4% to 12 is going to take a fraction of that time.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it is going to go bonkers. And then you put inside of there an ecosystem with potentially 4 different products inside of there. This is going to be insanity.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very much like, you know, that child, was it the childhood gym, or was it the playground thing that has the merry-go-round, and you have, you know, one kid and he's like on the merry-go-round, the other kid is like spinning him and making him go around faster and faster. And if you time it well, you know, you're adding energy to the system and you're spinning quicker. Then you have, you know, the big brutal guy. He's like, let's see if I can sling this kid off of the, you know, see how hard I can get it to spin. Centrifugal force, and the kid goes flying. You know?
Yes.
I feel like the, you know, the moments of you know, that like pushing a kid on a swing, same thing. Timing matters, because if you're timing it well, then you're adding energy and the kid goes further on the swing movement. I think that's what might happen with the hex chart feeding into the pulse chain chart, feeding into the pulse hex chart, you know, because you'll see these things where, okay, it's at the starting to slow a little bit, and then people will move. They're still going to psychologically move their tokens, some of them, some percentage, and that energy goes into the next thing in the same, you know, those rhythms. You'll start to see crossing rhythms, you know, of ups and downs on the 4 products as far as what's available to us now. I think it's really exciting, because you haven't seen synergy where I'm going to talk positively about Ethereum's performance if I'm a Bitcoin guy. I'm not going to be making a lot of content as a Bitcoin maxi about look at the chart of Ethereum and how it's outperforming us for the past 27 days, right? I'm not going to do it. If it's something to do with the Uni token or something else that's some other derivative play. Human psychology is, you're not part of my tribe, you're not part of my family, you're not in my ecosystem. And so now we have these aligned people community-wise. We have this aligned philosophy of no counterparty risk, no admin key, you know, as many things as technologically possible to remove the human element from the smart contract element. You know, all of that's aligned inside of this. It's really exciting, super exciting. And so it helps, obviously, psychologically through a bear. But, you know, also I said something the other day about, like, it's kind of normalized. I'm not saying that it was intended. It's just interesting that if you're going to change one habit for another habit, like, you know, the habit of chronic trading was there, and then Hex adjusted with its incentives and its delayed gratification philosophy. It adjusted some of the original people that participated in 2019 to, you know, stay in long enough to realize some kind of gain and then exit the system. Maybe they come back, maybe they adopt the philosophies of delayed gratification and they later become, you know, prominent. Or the ones that were stalwart and stayed, hey, I'm staked out, I want to generate content, I like this sound money narrative. You know, we're more conditioned to have changed the habit of trading to get yield and income out of crypto, to being, you know, to me, a more honest way, which is math rewards, code rewards, smart contracts of Mexi, smart contracts of Hedron. I like those kinds of contracts, you know, because they're still aligned with the philosophies.
I when you were talking about this, I thought of like a real estate example for people who say own a brokerage firm and they're an agent or whatever, or have the ability to represent as an agent, but they can also wholesale, but then they can also flip a property, but then they also have a portfolio of rental properties, right? So if you look at the example in real estate, right, you can flip a property, you can wholesale it. For those of you who are not sure what that means, it means you get something under a contract and just flip it to somebody else and you make a low margin on that. You have properties that you hold for long term, and if the person's like, hey, I want to get the maximum amount of value I can get for this property, I don't want to do any of those other things, you can take your agency and you can list the property, right? So you have 4 different things that you can do, as in, hey, Funny Jim, you want to get rid of your property? Hey, I'll buy your property. It's a kind of a shithole, so I'm going to give you a discount. Well, hey, I want the highest price. Okay, cool, well, I'll sell it to you. When you have somebody that owns one of those 4 things, assuming that a wallet does come, assuming that it is awesome, if anybody uses any one of those things, they have an incentive to utilize some of those other things or bring in the other people, right? The adoption increases. So this could actually accelerate the adoption of this, because the other person who was in yesterday, he was in Pulse X and Pulse. He didn't own any hex. We chatted with him back and forth several moments. You remember that, GRC? Where he was asking a question about it. Hey man, if I sent him a message, I think on Twitter. I was like, hey, if you have any questions? I don't want anything. Happy to help you if you have any questions. And he didn't own any hex. So this way it goes through and like expands that at a fast rate. It's like having a store that sells one product versus a store that sells 4 products. You're the store, and now you have 4 different things that you can sell that are going to help yourself. Like super.
In 4 different ways too. Like hex is a different asset than the others. Like trading hex is not easy and not fun and not good generally, you know, because people like yesterday, there's a lot of people that lost 100% selling at 7 and people bought back at 3.5 or even a little lower than that. And it shot right back up. That's a 100% move. They got wrecked. You know what I mean? And there was people that made 100% on that, and they were newer guys, you know, guys that I know, guys with $100K in the system, $150,000 in the system, you know, guys that are just getting involved, getting a little bit, getting their feet wet, really trying to learn this stuff. This is really organic. It's truly incredible what's going on here. But like, this is the very beginning. Like, this is the very beginning. It's crazy to think about what is going to occur in the next 5 years. It's almost impossible to extrapolate. Just like Hex, the same thing about Hex. If someone told Funding Jim Hex would be 54 cents 12 months ago, like when it first started, he would have called you a fucking moron.
Yeah. Oh, we were so excited when it got to half a penny. We're like, holy fuck, I can't believe this is amazing. You know, half a penny? Are you kidding me? We're right at the threshold of half a penny. That's crazy.
Right when I got in, there was like one penny FUD. Like it was like, we'll never break 1 penny. Like, and I didn't know what was going on, so I didn't really know. I was like, 1 penny, that seems cheap to me. I was new.
We still have memes of Richard Hart on a 1 penny, you know, kind of pictures. You know, it's like, you know, 1 penny is going to be the top. You know, you hope you made your money and things like that or whatever. And people are like, but can it get to a nickel? Can it? You know, is it possible? This is amazing.
And now that we know there's enough economic energy to get it to 56 cents, like, I mean, it gets explosive quick. It's like, ooh, it's like the difference between having like $100 in an asset and like $100,000 in an asset and like watching it double, right? It's like Hex is pretty darn crazy. And to know that we're just getting extra Hex, the guys who are really paying attention, depending on your staking ladder, it's like every single day we're just getting more and more and more, and the people that are going to trade are going to continue to do it. 100 million Hex for 13 days. There's a stake, you know, that's one of the bigger problems with Hex, in my opinion. I don't know if it's like necessarily a horrible long-term problem, but like some of these guys that have so much money, it seems like they just stake very short and kind of pull. And I know it changes the rate and everything, but what do you think about that funding? That's more like your probably understanding level, like these people that have so much money in the system that they do these small stakes. I'm not saying it's wrong or right. I don't care about shit. It's not my business. Yeah. I'm just saying, like, what if everyone decided to like just front run and just start doing these one, because we know there's accounts that do it. I watch them all the time, but not every account does that either. Yeah,
there's a lot of short stakes, and you know, again, the math in the audit proves out that they won't get as much Hex, but they are constant, whether it's accumulation or the yield is being sold. I haven't looked at the analysis, but I do know that there are people that just, you know, massive amounts, 100 million, 200, 300 million that stake, 30 days at a time. And, again, it's meant to be a staking coin. They are staking. I mean, I'm not talking badly because it's not a max stake or a longer stake or whatever. They're using the system as intended. They speculated, you know, I have to give credit to the fact that they speculated before there was a chart, before there was 100,000 people buy fucking every transaction. We have that now. There's a lot of us that staked daily, daily. So daily, someone has to be attached to their laptop to unstake every day. Like, they have 15 years worth of daily stakes coming out.
Oh, holy shit.
There's people in the system that have that. And I remember, people that were filling out, this is when it was a half a penny or a penny at the most to do an Ethereum transaction. and says, it might be only $25 a day coming out, but I want to have $25 a day coming out. And I was like, that's a lot of attachment to a laptop, dude. I don't want that. No.
Yeah, or anybody who's, I don't know if this is accurate, but for me, it feels like it's accurate. Anybody who's done something for a consistent amount of time for more than, 12 months realizes that doing something on a daily basis like that can get old. Even if you tell yourself you like it today, it gets old real quick.
Yeah, so now I know that they've adjusted their habit. Their habit now is like, because you don't have any penalty for the first 14 days. So like every 13 days, they have to get to a laptop and unstake 13 stakes.
Yeah, this one I'm looking at is 13 days. The one I'm looking at right here is 100 million hex for 13 days.
Yeah.
That could be super interesting if Hex was able to get to the adoption of the crypto as a whole.
Yeah,
continues to accelerate, which I believe it will, given all the data out there.
Yeah.
We see this acceleration, and if Hex continues to grow the adoption faster than everybody else, which could be the place if you figure there's going to be 3 things, potentially 4 things that are coming out. Hex goes to the store of value. Hex goes, which people believe it is, right? So if Hex goes to that point where Bitcoin is and tops the market cap of Bitcoin, then GRC, when there's that scary moments in the future, what happens? People put their money into Hex and they take it out of other coins.
Yep.
They take it out of the.
And they already do it. They just don't say it. It's not as public as it will be in the future, but there's got to be big money moving into Hex that they don't necessarily want Hex to be a part of their brand. Sam, you shaved 10 years younger.
I did shave. I also gave myself a haircut. I think I will shave my head at some point. Maybe I'll shave it when Pulse Chain launches.
Yeah, why not? I'll just start doing Pulse Chain launches. We're gonna have 24-hour stream going on.
I'm back.
You there, Funny Jim?
Yeah, I'm back. I had to move. My laptop died. I forgot.
No worries. Did you? So there was a potential possible future where Hex is able to overtake the market cap of BTC.
Yeah.
And in what we were saying about potentially 4 products, it can take place because the product is great. The potential future adoption could be greater than, say, other things in the market, and that means that it would just surpass them over time because the adoption of that thing is higher than the adoption of other things. And if that is the case, then the flight to safety, right? There's a bear market, some abnormal behavior happens in the world or in the marketplace. People put their money into Hex as the store of value, as people would call it. I don't know. I'm super excited. There's so much cool stuff happening right now. I'm very excited to see how everything.
There's a video that Dollar Cost Crypto dropped about USDC, PUSDC, and again, I cannot get out of this rabbit hole in my mind about thinking about what these stable coins are going to look like on the other side. Because imagine if one pegs, or whatever. I don't know how it's all going to work. But again, there's people with millions of dollars in stables that are probably going to keep them in there. Maybe not everyone, of course. People do different stuff. But what if somebody wanted to provide liquidity for USDC? Could they make that happen? We know there's people with enough money right there. It's period.
What are your thoughts on stablecoin funding? And what are your thoughts about a world that is crypto? So there's no finance anymore. We have the digital dollar, crap coin, and that's out there. There's people who don't know what they're doing that are using that, but everything is effectively crypto. Do you see the need for a mainstead stablecoin on every layer 1?
Well, I'm certainly no expert. I'm just guessing.
Yeah.
And my guess is Richard intended for Hex eventually, even though after its mad gains and after there's top of an S curve of adoption, that I think that that was intended to be a stablecoin. Linked, whether it's paired together with USDC or DAI or something else that has this moniker, has this name of being called a 1-for-1 exchange of a ERC20 for $1 or a euro or whatever you want to call it. So that's one of the reasons why he talked about unit bias and why we had so many, even when you have the volume now, to serve the size of the community that is involved with crypto right now, Hex is the right unit. right? Unit bias, and more zeros. Like they've been talking about Bitcoin forever to be stacking Satoshis. But I don't know how many people really pay attention to a Satoshi as a unit of value, like a
I
dollar.
certainly do not.
You don't think of it as a dollar per dollar.
I just think of it as
I don't even know what it is.
I'm
I don't
not
even know what
too
it
broke
is.
to be transacting.
So
You
I
know,
think
like,
that Richard might have this phase mentality. Like the first phase is, the stable coin perception. Like even when you look at so when Ethereum was climbing so dramatically from $100 to $4,000 or whatever it was at its all-time high, this last cycle, we were paired mostly with Ethereum. Hex was paired mostly with Ethereum, and so we benefited from being paired, the bonding, right? And then when that seems to be kind of the S curve of this bull slowing is when you saw us linked mostly to USDC. Most of our liquidity is USDC. And the narrative, as far as hexagons or Richard, echoing what Richard says, has been if you want Hex, it is like you're buying the product off the shelf at the grocery store and you're paying with USDC or you're paying with whatever. So the bonding to the stablecoin has given it more stability when Bitcoin and Ethereum have their tanks. And there was less correlation less often. It is correlated, but there was less correlation less often. That's why Richard likes posting all those lava pages and things like that. But if you're going to, the challenge with USDC is its admin key. It can be blacklisted. You can, fall into the wrong transaction that you unwittingly now are blacklisted and USDC is revoked or it can't be spent again. There's always the God power available to Coinbase. They can always do that to you. DAI less so. Other stable coins, they still have the same risk. Even I like TrueUSD, but it has the same risk. It's linked to a bank account. Stanford University is the backers behind it. I think that Gemini has a dollar that's called a stable coin, Gemini dollar or something like that. They all have these admin links. So I think eventually Richard would like Hex. If you're going to program money, if you're going to have programmable money, if you're going to have magic internet money that's better than the government's magic internet money, Hex seems to suit that because it does fit a sound money narrative. It does fit a math over min narrative. It does fit it. There's no admin key. We can't change it narrative, right? I think it fits a lot of those tick boxes, and it just comes down to units. If you perceive that $1, the only reason you perceive that $1 buys what it buys is because it bought what you thought it should buy. You thought that $100 should buy this amount of a thing or this amount of a service or this amount of food. It does. And then you look back 4 or 5 years later and you're like, why is it that my $100 doesn't buy as many groceries? And most people, it's mystical. They don't understand why gas prices go up. They don't understand why food and rent prices go up. They don't even understand why they get a pay raise. They think it's because they did a better job this year than they did last year. Most people don't know that it's CPI, it's indexed or whatever. So I think that the code and the stablecoin narrative in a few years could be shifted to where it is Hex is the stablecoin and the derivative mad gains are these other things inside the ecosystem, because a Hex buys a certain amount of service and good in the real world. That's my best projection.
So if I'm understanding and I'm paraphrasing what you're saying, is that there's a potential future which in your mind is stablecoins could go away and Hex is that. And that's interesting because I've asked several people this question because I personally don't see a future for stablecoins. Like if I want to peg a crypto to a dying carcass, that just doesn't seem like a good long-term strategy to me.
Well, I mean, if you're going to have a stablecoin should have 8.5% or whatever you can come up with to give you the best math of what the inflation cost is of holding $1 for a year. What is the cost of holding $100? Does your purchasing power increase or decrease over the course of a year? It decreases, right? Because it's inflating away. So if you're going to build a stable coin, our common sense is, it needs to be $1. but it actually needs to be $1 plus inflation, in order to be quote unquote stable. Because that's what people care about. They care about, does my purchasing power stay the same? Is that stable? Am I buying the same goods and services next year with the same pile of whatever it is, same pile of shells, gold coins, silver, dollar?
Do you like, that's how like conceptually we think about it, but
Yeah.
there's a lot
I
of
say
people.
it's programmed money. Hex is programmed money. The longer you stake, the more the yield. The short 1 year rolling stake of team, these other things, they have a narrative where they can say we're building in 8% APY. We're building it in. So even something like Team has the option to market itself as a stable coin linked in some way to Hex. Right now, there's still a lot of big people inside the system. Some of them are emotional. Some of them are calculating about why they dump the price, why they pull LP, why they do things, right? So there's still volatility a lot inside the marketplace of Hex. And that's why my time is spent, as far as public and even personal relationships, speaking philosophy more than speaking chart. I'm not speaking chart right now. I'm speaking the philosophy behind why did these group of people gather together? Why are they quote unquote hexagons? Why are they launching these other necessary tools to benefit the whole system?
But because I think we would have to change the definition. I think that's T-Bird, the stablecoin definition, 100% uptime flawless code plus the leap inflation, right? Okay, so I agree, purchase power, 100%, but I think a lot of the perception on the broader crypto market is not that definition. Yeah. We see that, but the broader market sees, I want something I can put cash in that stays the same. Right, that seems to be the idea behind a lot of people's minds. So if there's, when I'm thinking about a stable coin in the future, I'm thinking it's not pegged to something, but it is a crypto that maybe takes into consideration inflation in some way, but it has to take into consideration inflation in a way that answers that thing that what is it? Tony Robbins or somebody talks about, like, one of the human needs is stability, right? And that kind of feeds that. If I have $20 million and I'm put that into a stablecoin, I want that to be $20 million tomorrow, or roughly thereabouts $20 million. To create a coin or create a crypto that has it can't be backed by the dollar, it can't be backed by the euro, the yen, etc. It has to be designed in a way that reduces volatility in such a manner that only captures inflation, but it has to be so like, it has to be structured in a way like unlike Hex. Like it could be Hex, right? I haven't thought about it in that example, right? But I just see this not answering people's desire to have this stays the same.
People are looking, like, if you're a climber and you're rappelling, you have pitons, or pitons. It's where you basically have an anchor point, right? This is in the granite. This is my anchor, and I might free climb 15, 20 feet above, but if I fall, I want to get caught.
Right there.
That's when people are looking at the chart. They're saying, "Fuck, I need to go to stablecoin." That's what they're doing. They're like, "I'm falling. Here I go."
What do you think about designing a coin that is like, because that's what I see is, I see the stable coins going away eventually as we transition everything into crypto. It doesn't seem to make sense to do like tie yourself to something that's going away.
Well, there's less volatility. When there's less volatility, there'll be less desire for a stable coin, because again, when you're higher at it's like it's like television or airplanes or whatever. There's more adoption in general. You don't feel like your value at risk is as high. Like the first people flying airplanes, they had a lot of at risk. They had their life at risk. Now there's a lot of safety in flying airplanes.
Yes, no, it's just super interesting. I appreciate.
Real quick before you go, Sam, we're gonna pull up. I want everyone's opinion on this before we go, because I claimed my Pulse Doge coin yesterday on all my accounts, and I got free money. And I like that. And I really like that. So, guys, I don't know much about the specifics here. I know that they mentioned the supply is small. There's some whales in the Hex ecosystem that pretty much just tell everyone that they support this. And they're basically just straight up with it. They're like, hey, you should hold this long term because we're going to support it. That's not the reason you should hold it. But I think it's cool that we got a little bit of free money for some hex takers here, because it was a good amount of money. I was like, wow, this is interesting. So I started looking at the chart and talking to some of those guys. And I mean, let's be honest, guys, we know there's room for meme coin action within, in general. And this could be a good way, not this in particular, I don't know enough about the specifics, but like to get the Dogecoiners in the system, right? They like this stuff. Like, this is what they like. And I get it now a little more. Like, I get it's like, I understand, like, they get behind something and they want to push it and they want to make a community and they want to be a whale there. Like, with the right community, you can make stuff happen. And I think they're doing a good job. I don't know exactly what they're doing, but it seems to be working.
Yeah. If they're good about marketing, it's the same as the Shiba or the or Doge or anybody else. If they get virality, then these things can go through the roof, as far as price. They often have a pump and an excitement, and then the marketing money dries up, or people say, now I've made so much money, I'm not going to participate in community. And so that hardcore element fades out, and then the second tier or the second string or third string team doesn't do as well. So that's why you usually see it's the same thing that happens in like Henry Ford. He started a pretty big company, right? And then his kids and his kids' kids and his kids' kids manage it less well, right? It's the same thing. Like, you have different groups.
I haven't looked into Paul's.
That's where we'll go. We'll end the episode here. Funding Jim, you are allowed on this show whenever you're sitting down and you have a coffee. You feel free to just send me the DM, because every time you come on, it's a great conversation. You love this community.
Yeah.
I mean, I love this community. In the bear market, guys, we can make more of a difference now than ever. You know what I mean? Like, now is the time you can really make a difference. It's all fun and games. We're telling everyone Hex is pumping, going to the moon, but like, we're talking about life-changing money for pennies on the dollar right now.
Yeah.
Just like Wendy's always says, it's like $1 for every 5 when you're buying at the bottom. Like, it's so, guys, pay attention. We're coming at you live every single day through this bear market. We're covering Pulse Chain every single day. We're making sure you don't get scammed. Well, we're going to try our best to make sure we understand all the latest things that are occurring. We're following everyone's tweets. We're going to keep you up to date. We're going to provide value in that way while we learn and become better at what we're doing, guys, every day at 11 a.m. Funding, you got anything you want to give before we go? And Sam?
Next time, let's talk a little bit more about like charities, philanthropy, outreach to companies that already have some kind of philanthropy effort as related to Hedron and the NFT market. I have some interesting comments about that. We'll talk about that differently.
That'll be perfect. We can set up an episode like that, and we'll just go right at it like that. I appreciate that. I just wrote that down in my notes. And Sam, what about you?
If anybody wants to check out stuff on Twitter, or they like the NFT pricing and like that, there's going to be a video coming out today. I already filmed it this morning, so you can check out my channel. Just go subscribe, and it'll be out at some point later this afternoon. Or jump over to Twitter and say what's good over there. I appreciate everybody watching. You want to do the outro?
I'm going to do the outro song, guys. I'm going to be done by the time I get off. I got to finish doing my lawn. Everybody have a wonderful day. Funding Jim. I'll be talking to you very soon. Sam, I'll talk to you later.
See you.
Young folks, you dripping on them motherfucker.
Richard Hart. Richard Hart.
Bought my Hex from the fucking start. Point one every day we mark. Bought my Hex from the fucking start. Sacrificing all this bread like I'm Richard Hart. Got paid on big payday and I had a hit restart. Now I'm checking on my pulse just to check my heart. Bought my Hex from the fucking start. Sacrificing all this bread like I'm Richard Hart. Got paid on big payday and I had a hit restart. Now I'm checking on my pulse just to check my heart. Checking my MetaMask moving. Look at the Hex, he is mooning. Looking at wives they be choosing. Peter is why they be losing. Pro chains out, now get me a check. He's gas up and it got me a mess. Remember the times he died collect. Hex I been eating, I'm dying in the best. Getting this back like a year ago. Getting this post, I ain't letting go. Swerving the ring like a Lambo. Getting getting this back like a year ago. Getting this post, I ain't letting go. Swerving the ring like a Lambo. By my hex from the fucking start. Girl flexing all this bread like I'm Richard Hurt. Got paid on big payday and I had a hairy start. Now I'm checking on my pulse just to check my heart. By my hex from the fucking start. Sacrificing all this